YouTube, this is White One Auto checking in again. And you can see on the hoist, we have my 2000 Camaro. So this is a car that I was driving about a week ago when I wasn't driving my other car. And I noticed for the first time that it started having some noise from the rear end. So I was hoping it was an axle bearing, but of course, you know it isn't. So let me run you over here to the parts washer so I can show you what it really is. So we tore the whole axle housing down, and this is what you have. So let's let her focus in. You see how, let me see. See how those bearings look? See all those little divots in the bearing? That is what was giving us our noise. You can see this sign here is like divot and damage free. So what we are going to do, we're gonna overhaul the rear end. The carrier itself is fine. So we're gonna reuse the carrier. We're gonna replace all of the bushings in it. And also, when I tore this thing down, I seen how large the gear is. It's got like a 273 rear axle gear in here. So you can see your numbers there. See how big this pinion gear is, a 15 to 41. So I believe it's like a 273. So we're gonna swap this thing out for a 410 because it's my car. And you see the size difference. So let's put them side by side. So this is the 273 that was in here. And this is the 410 that we're gonna put in here. So that's what we're gonna do. So we got the housing all tore down. We got our axle bearings and axle seals out. So all that's tore down and all cleaned up. So all we got left to do is pound in our new races, set up our pinion, and then press our old bearings off of the carrier. So yeah, that is a lot to do. Yeah, so there's still a lot left to do. So let's get started on this. Hey YouTube, so we checking back in. We have our new carrier bearings put on the carrier, and we have our gear installed on our carrier. The bolts are not torqued down yet. We'll check back in after we get those torqued down, but this is one important thing that I want to talk about. So the carrier is this component. It's where the gear mounts to. This car originally had a 273 rear gearing. So for 308 and smaller gears, there is one size carrier. And for 323 and larger gears, there is another size carrier. So because we are switching from a 273 all the way up to a 410, this carrier will not allow the gear to sit in the correct position where it will mesh with the pinion gears correctly. So to accommodate using this old carrier, we have to put a spacer in here. Now the only reason why I'm reusing this old carrier is because this is a car that I have personally driven for a few hundred miles. So I know for a fact that this carrier works the way it should. There is nothing wrong with the carrier. The only reason why we even opened up the rear diff is because we started getting some bearing noise, and we caught it early enough so we were able to just replace the bearings. It didn't send a bunch of metal through all of these helical cut gears inside the differential, and they are fine. So in this case, we are not going to bear the expense of buying a new carrier. Normally, I would not do that because I personally would not know the condition of how the carrier works. So I would advise the customer on buying a new carrier, especially since we're upgrading the gear. You really need a new carrier. But in this case, it is different because this is my own personal car. And if something goes wrong, it's not going to cost the customer me any extra money. It is my labor that is involved. I'm doing this for me personally. So you should buy the correct carrier for the ring gear that you are using. But just in case you don't, they make the spacers. because you can see how the metal color is different, how this is the carrier, it matches that same color, and then you have the gear, but then you see that nice newer silver part, that is the spacer that spaces the gear out so it can mesh with the pinion gear correctly. Now, there is one issue that can arise into this. When you have to set your pin back in here, because it's moved this gear out so far, your pin or your block or whatever locks your C-clip axles in place, you need to check this before you assemble it and make sure that you have enough clearance to go in between there. Because if you don't, you will have a problem. You still need to be able to slide that pin or block through there. Now I have a trick for that, and we're gonna use that trick to get it in there. So the only thing we have left to do is to torque our bolts down and now set this up in the car. So remember, if you're using a gear that is 308 or lower, you need one size carrier. I believe it's known as a series 2 carrier. And if you're using a 323 or higher gear ratio, you need, I believe, a series 3 carrier, so your gears can mesh in correctly. But you can also use this shim, but you want to make sure, not a shim, but a spacer to space it out on your new carrier. But if you are using the spacer or the shim, you want to make sure that your carrier functions correctly before you go through all that work. And you also want to make sure that you can still slide your locking device in there once the gear is fully mounted in there. So we're going to get our bolts torqued down, and then we'll get this thing installed in the car. So we have our carrier in. I forgot to take a video of after we got our ring gear torqued down. That torque is 89 foot-pounds. Our bearing cap torque is 55 foot-pounds. I got that information from Mitchell. And now what we're gonna do is put our axles in, run our pattern, check. Well, first we'll run our pattern and check everything, and then we will put our axles in and button up everything. So there we go. This is our pattern of what it looks like. I want you to pay attention to this tooth. It gives you a real good idea of where it's at. It is a little bit toward the outer edge of the tooth. I would say a little bit high. It could be a little bit deeper, but I'm pretty happy with our backlash. So I feel comfortable with this pattern. And this is how I would set up most of them. I've never had an issue out of one of these on a high horsepower car, say up to 600 horsepower. I've never had an issue with one of these, including 7.5s that run slicks and drag radios. I personally have set those up with a pattern that looks kind of close to this and haven't had any issues. So I know lots of people will have their own comments as to what they like, but I feel perfectly comfortable with this and have no problem warranting this and have no problem that it would cause any issues. So we are going to put our axles in now, and then we will button this thing up. We'll put our axles in, our C-clips, slide our locking block in, and then we'll get the cover on, and then I might have somebody else finish assembling this thing for me while I move on to something else, because all the skilled work is done at this point. So I could have somebody else just throw the rest of this stuff back together, because it's nothing but brakes and a Panhard bar. But that's where we're at. So we'll check back in after it's all done. So we have our lock pin in. We have our locking device. Put some blue Loctite on that. Wiped off the excess gear marking compound. So we are about to put our cover on, and then this thing will be wrapped up until we take it for a drive. So the Camaro is all back together. Everything is good. Got no leaks. The carrier is working as it should. So now we are on to the next one. Thank you for checking out White One Auto. And remember, if you need any work or got any questions, you can reach us at the shop, 313-264-1689. You will probably have to leave a voicemail though. But thank you for checking in.